Hello everyone, welcome back to Jikook Diaries Chanel. Army. Have you ever noticed how the smallest Jikook moments carry the deepest meanings? Moments that look ordinary at first, but when you see closely, they reveal a tenderness, a closeness, and an intimacy far beyond simple friendship. Tonight, we're going to revisit those unforgettable times when Jimin and Jungkook unknowingly told us a love story without saying a word. From a sleepy live, to a borrowed coat, to a glance that almost turned into a kiss, this is the Jikook that still makes our hearts race. Let's remember the moment Jikook shouted boyfriends. A moment that clearly reflects actions usually only done by couples. However, in Jikook it feels so common and natural. Before continuing, yes, I already know this is an old moment from the past, but that doesn't take away the fact that it really happened. So please, let's avoid comments like, but it's an old video or that is old. We already know that. That's why I say, let's remember. So without further ado, let's begin. Let's first recall that particular moment when Jimin already looked tired and wanted to end the live. He even said himself that he was sleepy. And in the middle of that situation, Jungkook, with that mix of tenderness and attention that he always shows when it comes to Jimin, gave him the option of going to rest first, making it clear that he would stay a little longer to continue with the live. That simple proposal already says a lot. Jungkook, instead of ending everything together with him, gave Jimin the space to decide. It was almost like taking care of him, as if he were saying, go and rest, I'll take care of the rest. But the most interesting part wasn't the proposal, it was how Jimin reacted. It was clear he wasn't entirely happy with the idea. Instead of accepting, he told Jungkook that he didn't want to leave. The curious thing was the tone with which he expressed it. It wasn't harsh, but rather soft, tender, almost with a hint of sweetness that seemed intended only for Jungkook. That nuance completely changed the moment. You came in first. You don't like it? I'll just end it. I don't like it. I don't like it. Then why are you still here? Because yes, the words may be simple, but when they are said that way in that low, warm voice, they end up having a much stronger effect. The camera captured the exact moment Jungkook's face changed. A small smile, a look of satisfaction, as if Jimin's tenderness had touched him directly. It was the kind of smile you don't force, it simply appears because someone makes you feel good. And it's no surprise. Jungkook himself has said it several times. He loves Jimin's tenderness. It's something he not only enjoys, but it seems to disarm him a little, taking away his seriousness and leaving him in a state of pure complacency. And the most beautiful thing of all is that Jimin knows it. He knows his tenderness has that effect on Jungkook, and, without exaggerating, he uses it to his advantage in a very natural way, as part of his essence. That's why, beyond the words, what really sticks in your memory is the way they spoke to each other, that very particular dynamic between them, where Jimin appears vulnerable and sweet, and Jungkook reacts with that mix of pride and affection. Let's also remember that moment when all the guys were gathered together, trying different liquors, sharing laughs, and enjoying themselves. While all this was happening, one detail didn't go unnoticed. Jungkook was wearing a dark green, very warm coat the entire time. He practically didn't take it off throughout the entire episode. It was as if that garment was part of him that day, accompanying him from beginning to end. When the dynamic ended and all the members retired to their rooms, the cameras captured calmer, more intimate scenes of each one in their own space. We see Jungkook in his room, getting ready for bed, brushing his teeth, and as expected, he no longer had the coat that had accompanied him all day. Normal, of course. After so many hours, it's logical to take it off to rest. So far, nothing unusual. But the curious thing comes next. The camera shows us Jimin also in his room, lying in bed, ready to sleep. And that's where the detail shines. Jimin isn't wearing his own coat, the white one he wore all day. Instead, he appears wearing Jungkook's green coat, the very same one we had just seen on Jungkook for hours. The contrast is immediate, impossible not to notice. And here the inevitable question arises. Why? What kind of simple friendship gesture makes someone take another person's garment, the very one that has been in contact with them all day, impregnated with their scent, and wear it to sleep? We're not talking about just any object, but something as personal as clothes that covered Jungkook all day.
Are you having fun?
The most logical explanation could be that, since that night they had to sleep in separate rooms, Jimin sought to have something nearby that would remind him of Jungkook, something that would make him feel accompanied even from a distance. And if we think about it from a more romantic perspective, albeit subtle, it's very significant. It's not just putting on a coat. It's choosing to surround yourself with the other's presence, their warmth, their smell with that which symbolizes closeness. These kinds of gestures are the ones that draw attention, because they show that the relationship between Jimin and Jungkook moves in a much more intimate terrain than that of a common friendship. It is a silent now. Let's talk about that little detail that happened in the middle of a show, when one of the group's first fans entered the room and all the boys reacted with emotion. You could feel the happiness in the atmosphere. Each one smiling, applauding, showing their enthusiasm. It was a natural, spontaneous reaction, the shared joy of something that meant so much to them and to their career. But amidst all that general euphoria, one gesture stood out. While everyone was celebrating, Jungkook, instead of staying put and enjoying himself like the others, instinctively sought out Jimin. It's as if, amidst the collective excitement, his first impulse was to share that moment not with everyone in general, but with Jimin in particular. He stood up and walked toward Jimin, and Jimin's reaction was completely natural, as if he weren't surprised at all. On the contrary, he looked at him with a serene expression, almost as if this were the most common thing in the world. That in any moment of happiness, Jungkook would seek him out first. And that's when the most striking part happened. The moment when Jimin stretched out his hands toward Jungkook, not in an exaggerated hug like one might give to any friend, but in a different, more intimate, more personal way. It was a subtle movement, as if he wanted to cup his face, as if his intention wasn't simply to high-five or hug out of emotion, but to get closer in a way that transcended simple celebration. Jungkook, for his part, didn't stop either. On the contrary, he continued to get closer, and in that microsecond when their gazes met, a special tension was created, the kind of tension one associates with a gesture more charged with emotion than simple camaraderie. That's why many fans interpreted that moment as if Jungkook was looking for something more, maybe even a kiss, an impulse interrupted only by the sudden reminder of the cameras. Now, what I don't understand is why so many people are bothered when we talk about the criticism or hate Jimin receives. In the previous video I posted, when I mentioned that most, not all, but most Jikook fans and Taeyong stans were organizing some sort of letter-writing campaign for Jimin through Weverse, I received a ton of comments saying things like, "You shouldn't talk about that, just talk about the positive," or "ignore those things." But the truth is, I don't agree with that stance. For me, these kinds of situations need to be made visible, because if they're not talked about, then people will say Jimin doesn't receive hate, or that Jimin's fans make up stories to make him look like a victim. And that's not the case. It's abundantly clear that he does receive hate, and that he's often the victim of people obsessed with him and with the connection he has with Jungkook. And that's why, ARMY, no matter how much hate or criticism comes their way, the truth is undeniable. Jimin and Jungkook share something real, something unique, something that shines through in the smallest details. A smile, a borrowed coat, a gentle word. Each moment reminds us that love doesn't always need to be shouted out loud. Sometimes, it's enough to simply exist between two people who understand each other perfectly. So let's keep protecting them, supporting them, and celebrating their bond. Because in the end, Jikook will always be Jikook, and nothing can erase the magic they bring to our hearts.